No one on this earth is really going to fight for you or can do it, even if they wanted to. Nobody can do it for you but yourself. Now, you've heard that before, but you still cling to some hope that someone else can do it for you. You have to go through the jungle yourself. And I know that you are refusing to do it. You won't go to the edge of that desert where the jungle, the trail through the jungle starts. You won't plunge into it and start walking. So you're going to have to cry the rest of your life. To fight for yourself, and I'm using the word fight consciously now, unhostile. To fight for yourself means you have to fight against the world. You have to fight against the part in you that's still in love with the world. If you really think that getting a lot of money is going to make a bit of difference inwardly, if you have the smallest clinging to that belief that a lot of money is going to make you feel better, you haven't made much progress. If you feel that just the right man, just the right woman, if I could just find someone who understands me, and if she did understand you, she'd probably leave you, then you think everything would be all right. This means you don't know what it means to think spiritually. To think spiritually means you're not thinking from the center of any self-interest at all. Because this self-interest, having been seen through by you with your hard inner work, when you come across someone who makes more money than you do, it doesn't do a thing to you because there's no self to respond to it. When you hear that the government is going to give you a higher pension or higher Social Security, or the bosses or the union's going to give you more money, it doesn't mean a thing to you because you understand that this is the working of an insane world. Look how excited your friends get, how they subtly or openly brag when some good financial fortune comes their way. They got the raise, they're going to get a new car, they get a nicer home than they did before. They're so excited about it, or they're going on the trip. I don't see how any of you, after you've been coming here for all this time, can ever again get excited about any reward that world out there can give you. How can you? What have you been doing all these years in this class that you still value something out there? This means, again, you don't know that you don't go on forever in this life. And so you're trying to build up a certain shield around you so that you can perpetuate in your own mind what you call your existence. And what you call your existence is something that's going to disappear when the body disappears. Thoughts are impermanent. Thoughts are not permanent. Thoughts do not enter eternity. When you leave your money to your wife or your husband or your children, do you think they really care about you? They'll make a good public show of it, all right. Oh, my father was a great success in business, or my mother was so nice, she left us all these things. They don't care about you any more than you care about anyone else. And do you know that there's a certain validity in that? You have no business caring the way you presently do about people. Can't you go into the very shocking, jolting honesty of seeing that you really don't care about anyone but yourself? You care about other people in relationship to yourself. If they can't give you anything, what do you want to do with them? Now, don't go into opposites on that. Of course you can have a nice relationship with another person if you're awake, and that's what we'll talk about now. Think of your own mind. Think of all the thousands of thoughts that go through your mind today, just today, for example. And then think about other people and see how steadily, how consistently your thoughts are about other people and, of course, in relationship to you, other people. I wish my wife was a better cook. I wish the person I worked with down at the office wasn't so irritable. I wish those people driving home in their car would be a little more considerate of me instead of cutting in front of me. This is the first thing I want you to do right now as you're sitting here. Think of all the thousands of thoughts you think over a period of time and see how many of them are about another person, the image of the other person and their name. On and on and on. Now, what is the purpose of examining our thoughts and our thoughts about other people? One marvelous, mighty, atomic purpose, which is to see how I can be, how you can be free of everyone you know, everyone you'll ever meet, so that you'll never have anything but a right relationship with him or her. If your mind functioned correctly, and if your whole spirit was whole, then there'd never be any difficulty anymore with anyone, your wife, I don't care what they are like, but because your thoughts toward them are right thoughts, and we'll go into that in a little more detail, your thoughts toward them are not neurotic, they're not twisted by wrong desire, they're not revengeful, they're not self-pitying. Because your thoughts toward everyone in the world are not wrong, then you have a right relationship with everyone else. A right relationship consists of listen to this now, and you might even want to write it down. A right relationship with another person consists of never thinking unnecessary thoughts toward them. Right? If you never thought wrong thoughts toward, unnecessary thoughts toward another person, would you have a perfect relationship with them? This would mean that you wouldn't want something from them, from the government, from the friend, from anyone, your children. Drop that chain to the ground. You're not going to do this very voluntarily, very willingly. You're not going to do it because you're going to be, you say, see how you talk to yourself all the time? You talk to yourself all day long, don't you? And you tell yourself all sorts of odd things about yourself. Because then you say, if I take the chain off here and drop it down, then what is my relationship with the rest of the world? What's my relationship with a woman, for example? I have certain ideas of what it's like to have a nice relationship with a woman, or vice versa with a man. Or if I tell my parents that I just don't want to go along with their plans, what they want me to do. I've been an obedient child all this time, but now I'm grown up and I don't want to go along with that. So I take the chain of my parents off of me, or children, or anyone else, an old friend, an old trusted friend. What will I do with my mind all day long if I don't have relationships to think about? The answer to that is pretty nice. What you will do all day long is think practical thoughts, live as a whole, sane human being, and in that state, the questions and the thousands of questions that you ask, but what is life going to be like without this person or that person, the question itself will disappear. And then you're living in this state, which we've called in different ways. We've called it being strong, called it living from yourself instead of from your acquired and twisted thoughts. So the question of how should I behave toward him, toward her, toward them, why does the question ever arise? If you're a healthy human being, you don't, for example, have to go into the problem of making a decision between this doctor or that doctor. But just now, when you haven't acquired your own inner health, you think that that woman is going to be the doctor, or that man, or that group, or that association, or that club. They are going to give me something worthwhile with my life. I'll feel fulfilled. How come you never do? How come no matter how many people you have around you, you're still scared? And going to the opposite of that, if you angrily, fearfully push away people and live in your little shell, which you can do right in this room, because you can retreat while being right among other people. If you push people away, aren't you still in the same state as you were before? Mental plotting must come to an end. This means, now you listen carefully to this, and watch how you don't want to do it, how you want to fight it, and how you won't do it until you see the deep significance of it. You will never again try to influence anyone your way. Never. We're not talking about dealing with children, of course. I'm talking about adults in relationship with each other. Wouldn't your behavior be 1,000% different if you never try to persuade anyone to give you something, to agree with you, to take your side, to be your friend? Well, now my problem in talking with you here this evening is that you're not able to see how this attempt to persuade, to con, to turn people your way has been your way of life all the time. Or appeasing people. You understand what I mean by this. I'm saying you take a certain attitude toward a certain person, and then by subtle or overt means you say, I'm going to try to get that person to behave the way I want them to, so that I will feel better, so that I will feel secure, so that I'll feel wanted, I'll feel loved, I'll feel appreciated. You will go through the jungle of one depth or another, depending how bad off you are. You'll go through the jungle of never again trying to persuade anyone to go your way. This is going to put you in the well-known state where you're going to call it loneliness at the start. Up here, you may be surrounded by 1,000 people, but you call it loneliness simply because you don't have the familiar thoughts that you used to have, the familiar persuasions, the familiar tricks that you used to have in order to keep someone going the way you want them to go. And don't you sense somehow, even now as you're seated here, that perhaps there are people in your life that if you were to stop compromising with them, if you were to stop buying them off, if you were to stop giving them things, if you were to stop pretending that you like them, how about that one? If you were to stop doing that you would cause a crisis between you and the other person. Well, I'm here to tell you that the sooner the better on that type of crisis, because it's killing you, and you know not what it's doing to you. But you're so afraid, aren't you, of the wrath of the other person. You're afraid of hurting their feelings, because you don't understand that you can never hurt anyone's feelings. If you tell someone something that is true, something that is right, something that is honest, and it hurts their feelings, then they are responsible for that. You are not. But you still have certain parts in you that have this dreadful thing called sentimentality. Going through wrong sentimentality, where your eyes get a little watery when you think about maybe your son or your daughter or your parents, and you know you have to do the right thing, and all the old past comes up and tries to stop you from doing it. That's the start. Do you know what a fearless state is? in relationship to what we're talking about, relationship to other people. A fearless state is one in which you know absolutely, without thinking about it, without any doubts, very quietly, very calmly, because it's not even your wisdom, you know that it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for you to do because you made up your mind a long time ago that you weren't going to go along with mama or papa or son or daughter or wife or husband. You weren't going to go along with your cronies and your friends and agree with them anymore because you have begun to see what you were doing against yourself and then, of course, against them, which they don't know, but you now know it because you saw what you were doing against yourself. There will come a time when it will be so easy, so simple to say no to people or to say yes to people, depending on the situation. To be very, very firm and not have an ounce of guilt about it, not an ounce of shame about it. Because it's not your strength that's doing it at all. When you operated, or when I operated in my own self-conceived strength with my opinions and ideas and my phony moralities and all that, when I operated from that, I used to call myself strong. You'd call yourself strong. And after we made a certain decision, we regretted it, or was that the right thing to do? Maybe I should have done this and should have done that. Can you begin to glimpse the freedom in your human relations that comes when you're risen above all your ideas about yourself, having risen above all false ideas, all kidding yourself, so that you've gone through the jungle of seeing what a mess you really are, having done this preliminary schoolwork, and come out on the other side. Then you look out at the world and your wife she'll be a different person to you. Your husband will be. Everyone that you know, including the people in this class, will appear to you utterly different. And when they appear different, when you see how weak they really are, because you have strength, you're seeing them from strength, you understand, not from yourself, not from your sickness, self-conceit, not from your self-glorification. You're seeing them from this higher level which sees them clearly. And that is what tells you just how to behave with everyone. And you'll be enormously flexible. You'll deal one way with this lady and the opposite with this lady. One way with this gentleman, another way with this gentleman. Because you understand that they are different, but this one rightness that you have, the one strength that you have, is able to be very flexible with all of them. And when you see people that you're related with, or strangers for that matter, you can even read a stranger going by in the car, and all you see him is for 5 seconds as his head is out the window a little bit. You can read his whole life story in that just 5 seconds. You know everything about him psychologically. And when you are in relationship with people that are close to you, all your actions will be right because you don't take any wrong aggressions toward them. What I said 10 minutes ago, you don't want anything wrong from them. They have nothing to give you anymore. You've found out what you prefer above that wife's approval, or that wife's sex that she gives you, or the boss's raise, or whatever. You've found something that's 1,000,000 times above the level of this earth, so that you don't go into wrong relationships with them. Then, when you have a relationship like this, you're always happy. Let them do what they want. If they don't want to be your friend, what's that to you? If they want to be your friend, fine, let's be friends. But dear lady and dear gentleman, let's get it quite clear on whose terms our friendship is going to be. And if you wish to walk away, goodbye. Do you know that I have just given you an explanation of authentic happiness in human relations and in every other area for that matter? I am going to do what is true, what is right. If you want to stay sick, if you want to be around me, all right, I understand that. If you want to be around, you're saying this, you understand? If you want to be around me, fine. But you just act up and I'll knock you down. Psychologically. Never physical violence, never under any circumstances. Your decision to live rightly in trueness within yourself settles every problem with other people, right? This means that you are no longer going to get involved with a sickie who wants to say sickie. Well, I almost didn't say the word. Well, I'm now afraid I'm going to lose you, that another bidder will come along. See? As long as I'm trying to hold someone, I will fear losing someone. Never try to hold anyone in your life, and you don't know that you're doing it because you value that other human being more than you value truth itself. Begin to value truth. You start with that. You begin to value truth, and you watch how the wisdom for doing all these things we've talked about comes to you quite easily, quite automatically, so that you can use every human relationship you have. I don't care what it is. 20 years ago, or a stranger you met tonight, you can begin to use this wisdom to exercise to set yourself free of everyone. And at the same time that you set yourself free from them, it's the same thing as setting yourself free from yourself. Would you give me an estimate of the number of methods, devices you have used to try to stop being afraid in your lifetime? Even getting married, right? I'm serious, right? To stop being afraid. Did it work, ladies, gentlemen? The word radical has its place. A radical change inside. You're not going to do it without a lot of bopping from this class. There's no way you can bop yourself. You don't intend to do it. So someone has to encourage you to get to the point where you can begin to scold yourself, not negatively, but scolding in the sense. Now, I know it's very stupid for me to be in self-pity. I know it's very stupid for me to live generally the way I'm living now. Do something different. And the only way you're going to learn to do something different is to know that there's no difference in your life now. And you brought that up earlier. The repetition of your days, the same old thing going over and over. How many of you are bored to tears by your life? This is because you have not carried out that little device I gave you of watching yourself when you're alone and have nothing, when you're not compelled to do something. This is why people like to put themselves as slaves to other people. Someone will tell me what to do. They don't have any chance at all. You watch how you wander from room to room, wondering what to do next. Delighted when the phone rings. I have something to do. I can answer the phone. Or the mailman comes. Or you knock a vase down, you have to put it up on the shelf again. That gives you, I'm safe for the 3 seconds that I have to put that vase back up on the shelf. You are being bluffed and don't know it. And you won't know it until you put yourself in a state where you don't know what you're doing with your life anymore, but not go into despair over it, but study it scientifically. I don't know what to do with my life anymore. If you were to get to that point, this class, and you're reading at home and listening to the tapes, and your work on yourself, life wouldn't be worth living without it. Is life worth living to you in the way it has been? To what degree do you still value your own repetitious thoughts? To that degree, you can't value what you're getting here. You catch a little bit of a glimpse 4 times a week. Once more, I am telling you the truth now. I'm telling you what is true, what is right. I'm telling you that it can happen to any of you here. Any of you. Better ask yourself whether you've even started or not, whether you've become a real, sincere student or not. You have to go all the way. You can't hold back anything. Write down the word audacious and never forget it. Audacious. God loves an audacious man or woman who's going to do something outside of his own little timidity. Audacious. That's you'll remember what it's all about. Audacious.
In this last week, I've been learning something about my mechanical behavior when it comes to one of my favorite negative emotions, which is jealousy. That I'll look for any situation I can to just click it on. You know, I just click on that jealousy because it makes me feel like I'm alive in some way.
What are you jealous of, for example?
Oh, if men.
Men?
You know, men that I'm in a relationship with, when they give attention to other women.
Oh, I see.
I just look for it. I look to get jealous. I look for the moment where I can get that feeling because it's just,
right.
It's so fiery.
Right.
It's so negative.
You're torturing yourself, aren't you? Hmm? You know, when you have something, I understand, when you have something strong like that, at the time it's so powerful, so overwhelming. There's no way you can believe that you can be free of that. You know why there's no way you can believe it? Because you don't want to be free of it. If you wanted to free yourself of this self-torment of jealousy or whatever, if you understood what it's doing to you, even in a small way, start to turn your direction in even a small way, then you begin to see what it's doing to you, and that would cause it to fall away. It won't go overnight. It'll be a long time, because it's very powerful. Jealousy is very, very strong. You can live your life without jealousy because you don't need, look, please, never again cry over losing another human being, anything, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, mama, papa. Never, ever again be sad when you lose someone, because that means that you really love your sadness, not the other person. Sadness is of the devil. How's that for a little bit stronger? Sadness is of the devil, and you have turned yourself over to the devil when you're depressed, dejected, dismal spirits, swimming in negative emotions.
Could you give a good definition for audacious?
Audacious? Spiritual, we're talking about spiritual, being spiritually audacious. Yes. Instead of, well, you have to be very watchful or you won't be able to. You have to be very watchful of a certain situation. You want to talk to someone, for example, or you want to ask them a question. You know, you get 1,000 examples. And you watch yourself being hesitant. Look and see if they have a club next to them. And if they don't have a club next to them, go up and ask them the question. See? How are they going to hurt you? Well, of course, you think that they're going to say, I'm too busy, brush you off or something. See, we're also, how many of you have been brushed off? My mind goes to comedy lines all the time, and I have to resist it all the time. Well, maybe I'll be brushed off, or he'll say, what do you ask a dumb question like that for? Do it anyway. What do you care how you get treated? What do you care how badly they treat you? Go up and do it anyway. That's being audacious. Daring. You are now all Daniels and Danielesses in the lion's den. What's the feminine for Daniel?
Danielle.
Danielle, in the lion's den. Walk in the lion's den. They can't hurt you. No way they can hurt you. Even if you feel hurt, you are not getting hurt. Your memory is getting hurt. Your emotions are getting hurt. You are not your memory and you're not your emotion, so you can't get hurt. But all you know is that hurt feeling which you identify with, so you say, well, I will feel pain. You have to feel the pain consciously, deliberately, voluntarily, before you begin to understand its non-permanence inside of you. This is what we're getting at, trying to see the non-permanence of these feelings. We are not fixed. They are not fixed to us. I told you, you could unhook the thought, for example, unhook it from you and drop it on the ground. And truth does that, not me. I can't do anything. You can't do anything. Randy can't. Sally can't do anything. Thought can't do anything. billion human beings on earth that, relatively speaking, a very, very few number will ever make it, will ever wake up. People don't want to fight for themselves. They want to settle down in their very comfortable self-righteousness. Settle down and not do anything, and so eventually they die and fade away. You want to die and fade away? Then you just close your eyes and live in that furious little sea of thoughts, that stormy sea of thoughts all day long. There's one thing that can conquer the madness up here, and it's called God. And God will be a reality to you, not a word, not just a word, when you study the operations of these thoughts. Alan.
As we get to know ourselves, will we be able to sort of create situations where we can be audacious so we can grow from it?
Yes, and yes, you indeed can. Let me tell you something else, just a little bit personal. I can't go into details of it. I used to do a certain thing many, many years ago. Unfortunately, I can't go into details for a good reason. Where I deliberately get myself in a rejected position, where I knew. I was doing this consciously, not because I love pain or anything like that, but deliberately get myself in a position where I was completely at the mercy of certain other people, absolutely at their mercy, is going to make you real. See, you still think, you still believe that if you could just find the evidence, the action, the proof, the triumph, the reward, the medal, through some of your actions, then you could prove once and for all who you are, and then the battle would be over. What should I do next? Remember now, it's because you make it a wrong psychological question that you run into trouble, and I'll explain that. If you say, what should I do next? And then you think, oh, I'd better do some laundry, or I'd better do some shopping, or I think I'll sew some buttons on that old coat. No difficulty there. You go ahead and wash the dishes or whatever you do, and there's no problem, huh? So when you ask the question, what should I do next, as a psychological question connected with your lostness, you're frantic even while asking the question, because there's a part of you that senses that there's no answer to it. What a peculiar situation we're in. You'll nod your heads to this, inwardly, won't you? We have 10,000 answers to what should I do next, but not one answer. Right? Because you know that whatever you do next, you have to ask the question again. There's no end to the nagging, haunting question, what should I do next? Do you want to continue living your life this way? Is this the way you... Look, I'm talking to you, this lady and this gentleman. Is this the way you want to continue with the rest of your life, going through this? You went through it today. You went through it in the last hour, the last half hour. Isn't it astonishing that we look into our own minds and see the mad operation of it and don't begin to question what we're doing? Question what we're doing. Now, unless you listen closely, attentively, like you've never listened to anything before, what I'm going to tell you tonight, you'll have to do it again. You'll have to do it the rest of your life, and you'll have to live in, you like the word torment? That's what your life is, you know. Unless you listen to what I'm going to tell you, and especially in just a minute or two, you're going to have to spend the rest of your life, this ought to wake you up a little bit. You have to spend the rest of your life living the way the past life has been. Not ever get any answers, although you have 1,000 of them. You know how to behave. All you have to do to behave the way you now behave is go to sleep. Stay asleep. All you have to do is fall into the easiest course of action. Think of something self-protective. Go into a daydream. Think of something you're going to do. Think of some little petty pleasure that will take away the pain, and it never takes it away, does it? What should I do next? If you will grasp, if one of you here tonight will grasp what I'm going to say next, or begin to work on it so you can grasp it, you'll have a problem-free life. I mean it. You won't have a problem with yourself, therefore not with anyone else. The next time you ask yourself, what do I do next? And you're asking it in pain, a psychological question, not about washing your clothes. What do I do next with my life? How can I lift the burden? I'll tell you what to do, which will solve every problem. Just noticing what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. At the very minute you're doing that, you can notice your physical self, you notice your mind, you notice your body. If you're talking, you can notice you're talking. How can I tell you with words what I am seeing right now, what I know, clear as this air right now while I'm talking to you? That if you separate yourself, that is, if your essence, your real nature, who is beginning to understand and begins to withdraw from the mental self, this essence, as it begins to withdraw, you understand that while presently, you and your worry are one, because that's all there is. I am worried over something. There's just one thing there. No matter what the worry is, no matter what you're frustrated about, it is there, and it is you. It is there, and it is you. You begin to study these things so that on some rare, magnificent day, when you're vitally concerned, remember, no exceptions, I don't care what it is, I don't care how emotional it is, how long it's been there, how much you feel under attack by the world, you sit back. And because you've begun to understand these things, because the trembling before the world, which is your own mind operating, you and the world being one thing, you and your world being one thing, because you begin to understand this, and your intellect poses the question, and it even gets a little trembly and a little nervous and frantic, and you begin to catch yourself moaning, what do I do next? And your eyes get a little moist and your fingers get tight. At that moment, because you understand what it means to get yourself out of your own way, to not try to think your way out of a problem, because you've got a glimpse of truth, of reality, of God. At that minute, you refuse to go along with the question. You refuse to answer it. Look how you're answering your... Look today, which is Wednesday, how all day long, or you didn't see it, of course. This is why 99% of what I'm saying is over your heads. Look today, when you asked that question of yourself, when you had the problem with your father, when you had the problem with that person on the phone, when you had that letter problem, and the mind always puts up the question, how can I handle this? What can I do next? Do you notice that you answered the question? Which was the flaw, which was your great mistake. And the minute you answered that question, pulled it out of your memory, pulled it out of the machine, temporarily you felt relieved. For just a few seconds, you felt okay, you felt unthreatened, you felt as if you were going to feel all right in a minute, because you had filled the space with something. This is what is important to us, as mad as we are, to keep the space filled with something. And in this class, we're teaching each other to not fill it up with an answer. to not know what to do next. Someone screams at you at home or down at the office or in the car next to you. Someone screams to you, at you. Says bad words maybe. What's that to you? What have you got to do with that? Why do you answer? You know how you answer, don't you? You start to cry, or you scream back, equal bad words, or you feel guilty, or you hate him, or you justify your driving behavior. You'll do anything, we'll do anything to keep that space filled with our lies and our nonsense, because it represents everything we've ever known, represents everything we've ever done, and we don't know anything else to do, and I am correcting that for you tonight. I'm telling you what else to do, which is to know, first of all, what you've always done, which is to have the wise-cracking answer, which is to have the cold spirit, which is to have the snarl, which is to have self-pity. Makes no difference what false answer we supply. It fills the space up. Therefore, because the space is filled up, there's no room for us to sit back and see what's going on inside of us, and the seeing of it clearly is the refusal. What would you think if I told you that no world exists for you outside of your own world? Well, I'm telling you that. You say, well, look at all the people in this room. Look at all the people in the world. Look at all the wars, and look at all the unhappiness, and look at all the competition. First, I'm talking about a spiritual world, a psychological world. The world you live in is the world with which you see the outer world. Your nature, whatever your nature is, whether it's way down there or up a little higher, whatever level your nature's on, this not only sees the outer world, but it is the outer world as far as you are concerned, as you personally is concerned. Someone else may have to see it entirely different. Someone may be way up there or way down there. But whatever level you're on, this is why you must see the world. Do you see why? You're just seeing yourself. Huh? Take again, which is such a common thing. You know it. How many of you have quarrels? How many quarrel with other people? Huh? Will you experiment in your quarrels? And it doesn't have to be an outer one. It can be the inner one. But you're challenged, let's say, by someone, and somewhere or another, someone treats you badly, doesn't behave the way you want, therefore they're evil, right? They don't behave the way you want, and so you get angry, and you say, you were rude to me. You don't give me what I want. There's something wrong with you. Well, who says it? That very insecure, very scared, very unknowledgeable, very lost human being who can't do anything but project his own world to the outer world and says, hey, that's just like me, and I love that world because it's just like me. If you fight with anyone, it's because you love to fight because you're a fighter. That's your identity. This is who you are, a fighter. Now, how can you be a fighter without someone to fight? If you don't have anyone to fight, then you'll cease to be a fighter. I don't want to stop that. This is my life. It's very valuable to me. It fills up so much. It fills up. If you owned every other human being on earth, if you had a billion activities right in front of you, you would still go to sleep at night and cry, as you now do, and be scared. There's no way you can make time into eternity. And we know this, we feel it. But in our refusal to give up, we say, one more thought and that'll do it. One more little trick, one more little lie, and maybe I can convince. No. Aren't you convinced? Are any of us convinced by this time? There's no point living the way we've lived. Going on this way can only go on worse. The lies have never worked, and they never will. Maybe some of us will get to the point of real humility, where we say to God, truth, okay, I've tried my way. I'm terrified beyond words, beyond expression, of the very thought of telling you, God, to go ahead, not verbally, but meaningfully. I mean it this time. I lied about it. I went to church, and I was a phony Christian for all those years. This time I mean it. God, help me. I don't know what's going to happen to me as a result of this decision to stop depending upon my own sickness to make me healthy. But I know one thing. I know one thing for absolute certainty, and I know that that is my deliverance, and what I know is that I'm going to do it. I'm going to let go. I know it. If I'm walking south, and I take 50 steps south, 100 steps, 5,000 steps south, and all of a sudden I come to my senses. All of a sudden I come to my senses knowing I'm going in the wrong direction. I can't be going in the wrong direction. I look around and see the madness around me. I see the madness in myself. I've taken all these steps going south. And I turn around and I take one step north. I know it. I know it's right. It feels different. It is different. I know the difference between north and south. No one can kid me anymore. No one can lie to me. And my own mind can't lie to me anymore. Thank God. You get to this stage where you've walked 5,000 steps south and you wake up just a little. You turn around and you take one step north. Take one step and continue to work. You've done something which one human being in a million does, which is to rescue yourself from yourself. Which is the same as rescuing yourself from the whole world. See, you don't understand. You don't understand. How can bombs touch truth? How can inflation touch God? Are you mad that you connect the two? Where are you living?